So, what to expect today? We are going to reconnect with your study goal and purpose for the year. We're going to learn how to use a simple three-step check-in guide for your weekly study focus. We're going to spot weak areas early so you can stay efficient and confident. And we're going to leave with a plan to make the most of every single study session of the year. So, you can write this into the chat. You can write this down on your piece of paper. You can answer it in your head, whatever feels best for you. Why are you studying this year? I ask this question because it's really important to tap into your why. Once you know your why, it makes days that feel difficult to study. It makes the days where you just don't want to do it. It makes the days where you have a topic on your syllabus that you just do not like studying. Whatever the case it is, tapping into your why is crucially important. So, why are you studying this year? Do you know why you're studying this year? Maybe you're like, I'm just studying so I can pass this exam. Maybe you're studying because you want this passing this exam will get you a raise or a promotion or opportunities for a new job. Or maybe it's just to fulfill an educational dream that you have for yourself. Maybe it's to prove something to yourself. It's different for every single person. So why are you studying this year? When we connect to our why, I want you to do something very intentional for yourself. I want you to write down on a piece of paper. You can make this look fancy later, but I want you to write down what your goal is, your reason for that goal, and what your vision is. Some of this will end up being homework. It's hard to do all of this all together. So maybe take a screenshot of this so you can finish this later. But what is your goal? What is your reason for that goal? And what is your vision? And then, secondly, how do you want to feel about your studying this year? How do you want studying to feel different this year than it has ever felt? And once you have this down, I want you to write it on a piece of paper or get it printed on something pretty on Canva or whatever it is that you do. And I want you to place it where you can see it and read it before every study session. To give you an example, this is one that is on my monitor because I'm a perfectionist, like many of you. And the thing that I struggle to do is just to do something sometimes, to get out what it is that I have in my brain to share with you all. And so I have on my monitor, do it messy, do it scared, do it anyway. And this is something that has, gosh, I've retaped it so many times. It's been on my monitor for a couple of years now, and it still is something that I look at to remind myself that it's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if I'm scared. It's okay. I can always go back and fix mistakes if there's mistakes. I can always do something different later. I can always improve something later. But if I don't get it out there, it doesn't happen. And so, what is that thing that you are going to write down for yourself? Hopefully, you had enough time right now to do it. If you're watching the recording, you can just pause me real quick and get this down to where you feel comfortable before we go on to the next step. For those of you watching live, I want you to do a visualization practice with me. Of course, the recording, you're doing this as well. So I want you to start visualizing a successful outcome. There is a beautiful video of a little girl who is trying to climb up one of those crazy, those like, if you've seen the skateboarding walls and like Ninja Warrior kind of stuff, you have to run up the wall and then grab the top ledge and then pull yourself up. And there's this beautiful video of this little girl. She's probably, I'm not really good with ages, but she's probably 7 or 8. And she runs up and she doesn't make it. And then she runs up and she doesn't make it. And she runs up and she doesn't make it. And the girl starts to get really emotional. And then her dad or her coach, I'm not sure who he is, but the gentleman in the video with her, gets her to just calm down just a little bit and starts walking her through the process of visualizing it. Okay, you're putting your feet on the wall, you're propelling yourself up, you're grabbing the lip of the wall, you're pulling yourself up, you're making it up to the top, and has this like continual visualization that he walks her through for it's probably a good minute. And then says, "Okay, are you ready?" And the little girl says, "Yeah, I'm ready." And then she takes off and she runs up and she grabs the lip and she pulls herself up. Visualization is incredibly powerful. And if you can start a routine where you are visualizing a successful outcome of whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, whether it's the advanced exam or the WSET exam or becoming an educator or becoming an MS or an MW, whatever it is that your goal is and what brings you to see me today, I want you to start visualizing a successful outcome. And if you can start doing that as a nightly routine or a morning routine or an afternoon routine or whatever it is for you, maybe it's after you finish each study session, you do this visualization. But the more you can visualize a successful outcome, the higher the potential of your outcome being successful. All right. Did I just skip one? Oh, yeah. Step two is using the study. My brain's not reading. It's going 20 miles an hour today, so bear with me. Use the Start Smart check-in. So each week before you even begin studying, I want you to ask yourself, you already know your topic for the week because you've created your syllabus. And if you have not created your syllabus, go back to our master classes where we talk about creating a syllabus. You can watch the master class and then the workshop back to back to get your syllabus created, or you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me if you want to create a syllabus together or want feedback on your syllabus. But every week before you start your study week, I want you to ask yourself, what do I already know about this topic? And brain dump that out. You can type it on the computer, you can write it by hand, you can audio record it, whatever's best for you. But what do I already know about this topic? What feels vague or confusing or weak to me? Where do I feel like I have areas of opportunity to learn more? And then what is the highest impact area I could focus on right now? What is the area that you know is a highly testable question, a highly testable area, something that you really need to dive deeper into to increase your critical thinking skills, to increase your analytical skills, to increase your understanding of that topic? How can you make the most impact for yourself today or this week if you're studying the same topic for the entire week? So this is your Start Smart check-in that you're going to do every single week or every single start of each topic. If you're doing multiple topics in a week, then you do it before you start the new topic. This keeps your brain focused and not scattered. You guys have seen me create multiple things between the planners and the notebooks and everything else to try to keep your brain focused. Because it's really easy when you start studying something, especially if it's a topic you love, to start going down rabbit holes and into areas that are cool for you to know, but maybe aren't important for you to know for the exam. And so this really sets you up with a strategy to start your study session to be focused and gives you a mission for that study session. Like, I need to accomplish this. I need to understand the soils of Bordeaux so I can understand why each of the grapes are where they are and why the wines taste the way they taste and what the impact is on them, yada, 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 whatever it is. Your mission is critical for that specific study session. And this allows you to have a very one-track mind with your study session rather than going down rabbit holes or feeling like a ping pong ball because you don't really know where you want to be in that study session. Now, step three, for anybody who got the email today, your study topics is in that email. I'm going to put into the chat real quick the link to access this in case you didn't see it. Okay, there's the link in the chat so you can download this onto your computer. This is the 12 study topics that I created as an iteration of what Shane Bjornholm created. He has list of 10, and they're a little bit different than these. But I made my own version of it, and now I give it to you. So these are the 12 study topics that apply to pretty much every region that we could need to focus on for all of the major wine exams. And so what you're going to do is you're going to compare that brain dump that you did of what you know, where your areas of opportunity are, and where your most impactful places to focus on are, and compare them to this. Because a lot of times, if we don't have a reminder of things that we know or don't know, we forget that we know them. And so once you've done your brain dump, you then say, okay, history. Is there anything about history that I forgot? Put that on your brain dump. Or maybe, whoo, I don't really know much about history for this region. Definitely, I need to learn about history. Aging laws, so on and so forth. And you keep asking yourself, what do I know about this? Did I cover all of that in my brain dump? Do I not know very much about this? Is this a scenario opportunity for me? And this will help you get even more dialed in with your structure. So I keep doing this. Once you use your brain dump, you're going to ask yourself three questions. What is missing? Where are you strong? Where are you shaky? And then you're going to use this as a roadmap of what to study next. We're not going to try to study everything because that makes things overwhelming for us and we tend not to get started. So what are we going to study next? That's created by doing this step. Next, mistakes to avoid this year. It's really important that you do a reflection. If you didn't already do the reflection practice from last month's masterclass, I can put the link into the chat for you. Give me two, well, it may take me a little bit longer than 2 seconds. I'll pull this up. It will always be in your resources folder, which you always have access to when I send out the recording, but I just want to share right into the chat for ease. So this was the Reflect, Refine, Refocus worksheet that was the masterclass of December. And if you haven't done that, I highly recommend doing that. And it will talk in there about what was successful, what was not successful. And I want to make sure that you are aware of what wasn't successful and not continuing to do that. We don't want to study in a loop. We want to make sure that we're checking our biases, we're checking our gaps, we're checking our things that we do on an automatic response because that's how our brain works, and make sure that we're including the things that we don't think of doing obviously in our brain, but are things that are definitely going to help you be able to pass. Then we're going to focus only on new material and ignoring early topics. So it is really common that people will only focus on something new, or they won't go back to the beginning of their syllabus and check on that. They're like, well, I studied that in week one, so I'm good. Even though week 20 is 20 weeks away from week one, and they don't go back to week one and review. So if you haven't watched the session all about setting up your review and creating a review plan for yourself, I highly recommend going back and watching that recording. I recommend that you set up a review every fifth week. And that fifth week, we always review all the way back to week one. And when we're creating our syllabus, week 1 through 4 are usually topics that we struggle with because the more we review them, the better it will stick in our brain. And so sometimes it's not great starting with the things that we don't like the most or that we struggle with the most. But when you strategically put them in the beginning of your syllabus, you get to review them and get to have more exposure to them more often. And then avoid the mistake of waiting for motivation. Motivation is a little monkey who misbehaves. And that little misbehaving monkey is not your friend. Sometimes we have motivation, sometimes we don't. And what's important that we have over motivation is discipline. And that discipline is created by having structure for yourself, whether you're time blocking your schedule, You're using this method of creating a study structure to your week. You have your syllabus in place. You know which days you are going to be studying what. You have your calendar set up that you always study. I don't know, it's different for every single person. So I'll just give you some examples from many of the clients that I work with. And they're all over the board. So I have one client who always studies first thing in the morning because that's the way his brain absorbs the best, or when his brain absorbs the best. So he'll do his workout, he'll do his journaling and morning routine, and then immediately he starts studying, and he sets a 1 hour time block for him to study every single morning. I have someone who has a really strenuous job from Monday through Friday. So they don't really have the ability to study during the week. So they have weekends that are time blocked throughout the weekend. And they do 4 rounds on the weekends with breaks in between. And his breaks are pretty elaborate. So it's like 8 to 9:30, and then I think it's like mm, 8 to 9:30, 11:30 to 1, 4 to 5:30, and then 8 to 9 or something like that. They're like pretty spread out over the weekend. And of course, if he has weekend plans, those adjust a little bit. But he does these kind of heavier blocks for the weekend. So he's still getting a pretty good solid 8 hours a week in, but it just happens to all be on the weekend with breaks so his brain can process everything. I have another client who only can really focus in 25-minute windows. And so they do 25-minute blocks throughout their work week, and then just does blocks on the weekends as well. But throughout his work day, he'll do a 25-minute block here, a 25-minute block there, a 25-minute block here, a 25-minute block there. Usually it's like 7 and then 11 and then 2 and then 5 or something like that. And everybody's different in the way that they create their structure. And it's important that you find the structure that works best for you. And if you don't know, of course, you can just schedule a one-on-one session with me and we can figure out the structure that's going to work best for you. Momentum is built through clarity, not through pressure. It's really common for us to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect. Consistency and perfection are not the same thing. Consistency is showing up to your capability every single day. Perfection is doing 100%, 100% of the time. So if you wake up one day and you are at 10% of your capacity and you do 10% of your study plan for that day, you showed up consistently. If you are at 10% of your capacity and you push yourself even harder to make sure you do 100% of your plan, and then you do this back pressure that creates more stress and lack of sleep and insomnia and so many other things, that it doesn't allow you to have momentum. It's this start, stop, start, stop, start, stop that happens. So if you can remember consistency over perfection, you will do yourself a lot of good for 2026. Your success plan for 2026. We are going to anchor each week with the Start Smart check-in. We're going to review weeks to reinforce and reconnect. And again, your review weeks are every fifth week. And that entire week is all for review. You're not doing any new studying on those weeks. And then you're going to track what you're learning, not just what you're doing. And this comes into play with tasting as well. If you haven't seen our deductive tasting journal, I highly recommend going onto the site into our products and looking at that. You're able to consistently track what it is that you're tasting, if you're getting it right, if you're getting it wrong, if you're consistently calling Chenin Blanc Chablis, or if you're consistently calling Chateauneuf de Pape Brunello, or whatever it is. You get to see your own trends and you build data about how your brain is absorbing and retaining and doing, and you're able to optimize and fine tune when you have more data about your own brain. So, what will you do differently this year to study smarter? If you know something already, put it into the chat. What is it that you want to do differently this year to study smarter? If you're watching the recording, take a pause me real quick and say, what is the thing that I am going to do differently that I didn't do last year that will make my time studying more efficient this year? And write that down for yourself and remind yourself that you're going to be doing that. So your homework before the workshop is to do a study smart check-in for your next study topic. Ask yourself what you know. Ask yourself what feels vague. Ask yourself where the best place to start is. If you haven't already finished all of the reflection type of questions that I asked you, go back and rewatch this and pause it so you're able to answer those questions for yourself. Make sure you have your mission, your goal, your vision, your whatever it is that you want to call it, your affirmation, whatever it is, created and written out and put somewhere very obvious in your study zone so you can see it and read it every day. And then if you haven't already started thinking about visualizing that successful outcome, put into your calendar a time to create this routine for yourself. And then it only takes 5 minutes to sit, and maybe not even 5 minutes. You can do it in bed before you fall asleep. Maybe that's how you help yourself fall asleep. Maybe it's as soon as you wake up before you really start to open your eyes, you do this visualization technique. Maybe it's at lunch as you take your walk afterwards and you're walking around and visualizing. It's different for every person. What does that routine look like for you? Bring your notes with you, and next workshop, we will create a plan. Just real quick, so next week, the 15th, is going to be our office hours. The 22nd will be our workshop, and then the 29th will be more office hours. And the way I would like for us to end today is to really kick the year off right and create another thing to write down for yourself and say, this year I will study with more fill in the blank and less fill in the blank.